Okay, so I've cleaned up our example a little bit to get rid of some of that cruft, visual debt, if you will. And I want to talk about lifecycle hooks. So this is another really important concept in Livewire. So let's say that we wanted to do something when the Livewire component is first initialized. You might think that you would do something like construct. Well, that is not the case. Livewire saves the constructor for internal uses. It instead exposes a mount method. And in the mount method, you can do anything you want to do. This is going to run on with the first request. It's going to be the first thing that happens once this component is booted up. So we could change the initial value of name to something else like foo. Okay, and now if we open it up in the browser and we refresh, it's going to say foo right away instead of jelly. Okay, that's pretty great. We can also pass data into Livewire component. So let's say we wanted to pass name as a parameter into this Livewire component and then set it as the initial name. Let's go into where we actually reference this Livewire component back in our welcome.blade file, and we can pass parameters into the component just like you would a blade component. So we'll say name, and then we pass in some value. Let's say Chico. Okay, now I refresh and it's gonna say Chico. Awesome. So you can also dependency inject inside of mount methods. So if you wanted to get the request, you could say request, get the request, and then inside of here, let's say you wanted to do something like request, input, name, and then if there's no name in the input, just default to what gets passed in. So now if we wanted, we could inside of our URL bar, we could say name equals Harpo. Okay, and now it's Harpo. So that's a really important note to make, that in the mount method, you can access the request of the initial page load. Anywhere else inside the component, you should not access the request because it's a subsequent request. It's those AJAX requests that get fired back and forth. But in the mount method, it's totally fine to use the request object. And on that dependency injection note, if you have other methods like that reset name that we made last video, you can also dependency inject whatever you want. Dependency injection works with any method in a Livewire component. All right, so we mount, we get the request, we get the name. Let's simplify this back down a little bit. So that's the mount lifecycle hook. That's probably the one you'll be most comfortable with and you'll use most commonly. So another one is kind of the alternate to the mount lifecycle hook. It's the hydrate lifecycle hook. So this hydrate lifecycle hook is going to run at the beginning of every subsequent request that a Livewire component makes. So the first request is going to run mount, and then anything we do, like when we type into this field here and it updates in the back end, it's going to run hydrate before those calls. So let's say we set name to hydrated. That was supposed to be an exclamation point. Oh, I'll just leave it as an @ Okay, it says Chico. Now I'm going to type into here. It's going to make that server round trip. It's going to run hydrate as soon as it gets to the server. And here we go. There we go. Hydrated. All right, so that's a good one. Let's do another one. Let's do updated. So updated is going to run anytime you update a public property. So if you're doing it with wire model, the user types into this input field, it's going to update name, and then it's going to run the updated hook. There's also an updating hook if you want to do it before the value is actually updated, but let's just stick with updated. So we do updated, and then, I don't know, for now, let's just say updated. We type in, and it says updated. So because it's already been updated, you could actually mutate the value that's been updated. So we could say string to upper this name. Okay, now the first load is going to say Chico, and the next one is going to be all caps. And if you don't want to reference this name, you could actually get the value right out of this method. So we could say name, and there we go. So it's going to pass the value that just got updated for you if you want. And one last little feature here, you can scope these updated methods to only run when specific pieces of data are updated. So you do that with the Studley case version of the name. So if we said updated foo does not exist, this will never get run. If I type something, nothing happens. But if I replace foo with name, now it's going to run anytime the name value is updated. And there we go. So there's your basic lifecycle hooks. They're really handy. You can do lots of things inside of them. Enjoy.